This is a map of Southwest Asia, one of the most important geographical regions on the planet. The Dead Sea is located between Israel and Jordan. The Dead Sea is an endorheic lake that may be found in the Jordan Rift Valley. This lake was generated by the Dead Sea Transform. The transform fault that can be seen migrating laterally to the left goes parallel to the tectonic plate boundary that separates the African and Arabian plates. It is a link between the East Anatolian Fault zone in Turkey and the northern end of the Red Sea Rift, which is located offshore of the southern tip of Sinai. This geological marvel is one of the bodies of water on Earth that contains the highest concentration of salt, and as a result, it is a popular destination for geoscientists and explorers. The scientific community as a whole was taken aback when a startling discovery was made during recent investigations of the Dead Sea. What exactly did the researchers find out? Is the Dead Sea hiding a dark secret? What exactly is going on down there? Come along with us as we study the observations made by scientists at the Dead Sea that have left them perplexed. The Dead Sea is a salt lake that is situated in the Judean desert in southern Israel. To the east, it is bordered by Jordan. In addition to being the lowest place on Earth, it is also one of the saltiest bodies of water on the planet and has a history that stretches back around 4 million years. It is a dry desert climate with sunshine present throughout the entire year, temperatures that are moderately high, and very little precipitation. It is generally accepted that volcanic activities have been responsible for the continuous sinking of land, which has caused the Dead Sea to occupy the position of the lowest point on the planet. Both the extraordinary geomorphological structure and the severe environment of the desert contributed to the formation of these one-of-a-kind traits. These factors are responsible for the periodic dramatic shifts that have produced a landscape that is incomparable to any other in the world. In addition, the unusual mineral richness of the air, soil, and water in this region are internationally renowned for its curative capabilities. This is proved by the fact that this location has been used as a health resort for thousands of years. However, there have been a number of unexplained events that have taken place close to the Dead Sea, and one of the things that have left researchers perplexed is the discovery of water that has taken on a blood-red tint. This is really unusual, since the last time a body of water turned the color of blood was in the Bible, and as we all know, the Bible has numerous references to the Dead Sea, making it a very significant body of water. It just doesn't seem normal or natural to have a red pool of water change into the blood as a prominent landmark in major history texts. There must be some kind of explanation for this. This astounding finding was uncovered in the region that is today known as Jordan, but was referred to in the Bible as Moab. The discovery of a pool of water that had mysteriously turned crimson just inside Jordan's border was such a shock that the country's Ministry of Water and Irrigation was forced to take action in response to the situation. Workers from the ministry traveled to the site of the peculiar occurrence and collected water samples there in order to determine the source of this issue, as well as its points of origin. While the Jordanian ministry has been seeking to examine the reason for this problem, photographs of this blood-filled red water have already spread widely throughout the internet, which has sparked a number of discussions. The widespread fear among users of social media platforms that this revelation could lead to the outbreak of a new pandemic was a frequent subject. Because blood-red waters are mentioned in the Old Testament as one of the 10 plagues unleashed on Egypt and its stubborn pharaoh in order to rescue the Israelites from slavery, many people accepted the likelihood that this theory was correct. Blood-red waters are mentioned in the Old Testament as one of the 10 plagues. The biblical account states that God changed the composition of the Nile River from fresh water to blood, which resulted in the death of all aquatic life forms in the river and prevented Egyptians from using the water for their typical day-to-day activities due to the fact that the water had become worthless. Another puzzling finding was made when geologists discovered that the eastern borders of the Dead Sea were the blood-red pond, which just so happened to be the location of 2 biblical cities. This was a double-edged sword for the researchers. These 2 cities are known as Sodom and Gomorrah. According to the Bible, God is credited with destroying them due to the wickedness of their inhabitants. However, at the same time that these theories were being disseminated around the internet, the government of Jordan was conducting an investigation to determine whether or not this particular occurrence had a rational explanation on Earth. As a consequence of this, When Fathi al-Huwaymel, the head of the Al-Karak Council's Water and Agriculture Committee, announced that the authorities had been notified and that work had begun on discovering the source of the water, it did not appear as though the government was taking such a matter lightly. In fact, it appeared as though the government was taking the matter very seriously. Even while there isn't now any answer that can be taken seriously, there are a few scientific suggestions that show promise in explaining why the lagoon, which is cut off from any freshwater sources, abruptly changed color. According to Yassin al-Kasabeh, the director of agriculture in the southern Jordan Valley, this peculiar phenomenon is found in ponds near the sea because of the presence of certain bacteria as well as red algae that love salinity and changes color with the current sunshine. Yassin al-Kasabeh also stated that this peculiar phenomenon is found in ponds near the sea because of the presence of red algae. Nevertheless, this does not provide a sufficient explanation for why the water suddenly turned red while other pools in the area did not, particularly considering that the region enjoys almost constant sunshine throughout the year. In spite of the fact that this explanation was met with skepticism by certain individuals, some officials hypothesized that the presence of iron oxide in the water might be the reason why the water took on a peculiar hue. However, this reasoning did not seem to hold water because there was no explanation as to how the iron oxide got into the pool or why the color changed so rapidly. Both of these questions remain unanswered. Sakhr al-Nusur, the president of the Jordanian Geologist Syndicate, presented an alternative viewpoint in which he asserted that the color red was produced as a result of the addition of elements by mankind. This idea was presented as a possible explanation. Quite a few Jordanians are of the same opinion, and they have accused the government of either hiding the origin of the contamination or of employing the pool as a dumping ground for hazardous waste chemicals. However, despite the fact that this hypothesis became viral on social media and appeared to make sense on the surface, it was not the real reason why the event took place. A comparable occurrence of blood-red water took place in Israel when the Alexander River appeared to mimic the scourge of blood described in the Bible. The Emek Hefer Regional Council is a rural community made up of kibbutzim and moshavs. The Alexander River begins its journey in the hills of Nablus in the West Bank. The animal and blood waste that is routinely cleaned at a purification plant were not cleaned since the system was flooded by heavy rains, and as a result, the waste did not be cleaned before it was released into the Alexander River. This horrible event occurred at the same time as the previous month's high demand for chicken, which was supplied to Israelis in preparation for the holiday of Passover and to Muslims in preparation for the celebration of Ramadan, which lasts for a whole month. You might have expected the pool that is located close to the Dead Sea to have experienced the same thing, but it didn't. It turned out that the preceding scientific explanations, which included algae, iron oxide, and compounds added by humans, did not provide the correct explanation. A few weeks later, the exact cause was supplied by the Jordan Valley Authority, an agency under the jurisdiction of the Jordanian government that is in charge of the region's water supply. After doing a few analyses on the water, they came to the conclusion that the reason for the water's red color was due to the presence of manganese in the water. That was a peculiar discovery of which no one had ever before heard anything before. The ecosystem of the Earth contains a significant amount of manganese due to its naturally occurring state as an element. It can be found in the soil, the air, and the water, as well as in the food that we eat. However, scientists hypothesized that a very high concentration of manganese could change the color of the water to a more reddish hue, similar to the effect that iron has on the color of the water. According to a geological study that was carried out in the U.S., iron and manganese are both examples of metals that have the potential to leave stains on plumbing fixtures or clothes, despite the fact that it is not known whether or not they are the cause of any health issues. It is not clear, however, how the Dead Sea Pool got to have such a high concentration of manganese. The area around the Dead Sea has been a source of historical illumination ever since biblical times, although the first examples of modern discovery don't date back much further than the 19th century. A new piece of the Dead Sea Scrolls, a trove of ancient Jewish and Hebrew holy texts found in the Qumran caves on the northern side of the Dead Sea, has been uncovered by archaeologists for the first time in 60 years. The Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered in the Qumran caves. The Israel Antiquities Authority was in charge of carrying out the excavations. The authority is of the opinion that the newly discovered scroll, which was written in Greek, is a missing section of the scroll known as the Book of the 12 Minor Prophets, which was found in 1961. It contains verses from Zechariah 8, 16-17, in addition to verses from Nahum 1, 5-6. Even seemingly insignificant variations in phrasing across different Hebrew Bible manuscripts have a substantial impact on our comprehension of how the Hebrew Bible came to be standardized. The first Dead Sea Scroll was found in 1947 by a Bedouin shepherd, making it one of the most important archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. The Dead Sea Scrolls are located in the Dead Sea. The parchment and papyrus manuscripts, which date from the 3rd century BC to the 1st century AD, contain the earliest known texts from the Hebrew Bible, in addition to other apocryphal works. Their dates range from the 3rd century BC to the 1st century AD. The new pieces were found in the Cave of Horror, which is where archaeologists found the skeletons of men, women, and children who were killed during the Bar Kokhba revolt, which was a Jewish uprising against Rome that occurred from 132 to 136 during Emperor Hadrian's reign. The presence of Roman encampments atop the cliff just above the cave lends credence to the theory that the rebels were imprisoned there until they perished as a result of famine. Only by lowering oneself down a rope that is approximately 200 feet in length can one enter the cave. The new Dead Sea Scroll is one of several recent archaeological discoveries, including a partially mummified 6,000-year-old child skeleton, Jewish coins from the time of Bar Kokhba rebellion, ancient arrowheads, and a 10,500-year-old basket that has remained intact, lid and all, due to the desert's hot and arid environment. Other recent discoveries include a Jewish coin from the time of the Bar Kokhba rebellion, an ancient arrowhead. Your thoughts on the new findings in the Dead Sea region? Write it down below in the comments and tell us. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.